2016, number 4A. If the failure rate of the superigniters is 15%, what is the probability that the first 30 superigniters selected using the testing process successfully launch rockets? So the probability for one successful launch is equal to 1 minus the failure rate, as told in the problem, is 0.15%. So in order to get the success rate, we take 1 minus 0.15, which equals 0.85. And now we need to find the probability that the first 30 superigniters selected using the testing process successfully launch rockets. And so we know the probability of one successful launch. We just take 0.85 and raise it to the power of 30. When we do that, we get the number 0.0076, and that is our probability. And we're done with part A.
Okay, so for part B, it's asking what the probability that the first failure will be on the 31st or the 32nd attempt, given that the first 30 are successful. So first we have to find the probability that the 31st attempt will be a fail, given that the first 30 are successful. So to do this, it's simply 0.15, since all the trials are independent, so the probability that it'll be on any given trial is always going to be 0.15. To find the probability that the first fail will be on the 32nd attempt, all we have to do is multiply 0.85 times 0.15, because the probability, we have to account for the probability that the 31st will be successful, which is just 0.85. So to find the probability that either it will be on the 31st or the 32nd attempt, the first fail, all we have to do is add 0.85 times 0.15 plus 0.15, which you get an answer of 0.2775. And that is the answer for part B. Okay, so for part C is asking, given that the first 30 superigniters successfully launch rockets, is it reasonable to believe that the failure rate of the superigniters is less than 15%? So most of the work for this is actually done in part A already. So in part A, we established that the probability of the first 30 were successful, given that the proportion of failure was 0.15, was 0.00763. So since we know this, we can write an explanation something similar to this. As established in part A, the probability that the first 30 were successful, given that the probability of a failure was 0.15, was 0.00763. Since this is a relatively low probability, it is likely that the first 30 launches were successful. That if the first 30 launches were successful, the superigniters do in fact have a lower failure rate than the traditional igniters.